Hello and welcome to the Outcast. I'm your host HC, and with me is.
Wolf.
And today, when was the last time we did something Disney related?
Ooh, I would have to look.
Because, considering how much of everything Disney owns, I'm surprised. I'm surprised that we actually need to think about it.
Oh, no, we did something about uh, where's it at? 4 months ago, if you can. Black Panther.
Mm. Okay, yeah, okay, that counts. Yeah, you're right. But still, yeah, I was like before this, I'm not even sure what was the other thing, but we didn't do a lot of Disney, so I guess it's time to fix it with
Surprisingly,
something. Yeah,
surprisingly, we've stayed away from Disney a lot.
like actually, now that I think about it, most of the Disney stuff we did until today was just Marvel stuff.
Yeah, we did. Well, we've only done two Marvel things. We have
Well, like let's
largely stayed away
say,
from Disney. Surprisingly, somehow. I think we've
yeah,
mentioned it in many different shows, but we've never actively covered a
yeah, but
Disney show.
in terms of Disney products, man, this is I can believe we've gone on, doing this for almost 5 years,
Yeah,
and yeah, we didn't do a lot of Disney. Well, first time for everything, I suppose. We're doing
Infinity War.
something Disney today.
Infinity
Yeah,
War
well,
was the first thing we did Disney wise, and that was over 2 years ago.
yeah, Infinity War, and later on Black Panther. Like Spider-Man, the new animated series doesn't count because it was before
God,
Disney
no.
bought Marvel. So yeah,
I wouldn't
that
count it.
doesn't
Even if
count.
it did count, I wouldn't count it. It was so bad. It was something.
Well,
It was something.
I like how you're like you wouldn't count it as Disney because it's bad. You know Disney has their bad things too, right? You
Disney
know
making bad things?
the
No.
the the
Disney
mouse
definitely
isn't
didn't.
the
Disney
mouse
definitely didn't
isn't
make a
clean,
live
Wolf.
action quote unquote Lion King, and it was terrible. No.
The live action remakes in general are awful.
That
Like
wasn't Disney's stupid decision to make Mulan and make it god awful. No.
I'm not even bothering with this one. Like I'm not bothering. Done. No, I'm not saying this. No, like
Next time on the
you have to
Outcast,
pay.
we're here to cover live
No,
action
no, no, no,
Lion
no,
King.
dude. You want to do this for the outcast? You fucking pay me, okay?
Well, you
But
heard it here
we're
first,
not.
folks. We'll be starting up an Outcast and Berkcast Patreon here soon, so you can pay HC to do the bad films.
No, no. I want subject viewer to this. No. But anyway,
If this
no bad
video
Disney.
gets over 1,000 likes, we'll do a terrible Disney film.
Oh God.
The worst Disney film. The
Mm.
Black Cauldron.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. Anyway, whatever. We're not talking about that Disney. We're talking about TV Disney. And
Which
one of their
is
most
eh?
one of their most recent one of those their most recent outings because this is just turned a year old, like earlier this month.
Yes, if I'm not mistaken, season 2 will be coming out sometime soon.
Sometime soon, and we'll see about how that goes. But today we're talking about season one of The Owl House.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a little show that not a lot of people think of if you say Disney, but it has a pretty it has a pretty big following from what I see. Which is the point where I ask you, Wolf, what was your experience with the Owl House prior to doing this podcast?
Prior to doing this, I know a lot of I guess LGBTQ friends were very excited over it. Specifically, the L's.
Hmm.
A lot of lesbians were very much enjoying the show. Apparently, that's all I know. A lot of
We'll
lesbian
see
friends are
why.
like, "Yay, the show," and I'm like, "Okay." And these are people who also enjoyed She-Ra, so spoilers, I suppose.
We'll get to this. There's actually a pretty funny story about that.
Spoilers. There's lesbians.
Mm. There's an interesting behind the scenes fact about that. that. But for me, I just heard a friend of mine talk about it and write about it. And you know her from previous Outcast episode. It's Jaya. Shout out to you if you're listening to this. So I saw her talk about it, and then speaking of Shira, Ellie, who was with us for the Shira season 5 review, she started talking about it, and I just started hearing that name come up more and more, and I'm like, okay, I'm curious. And then people said it's only one season, and I'm like, okay, that won't take too much out of my time. I guess I can give it a
It's
watch.
19 episodes,
Mm,
not counting the 5 shorts, which I did not see, I will say now
Yeah,
up front.
I didn't as well. Like for this, we're just talking about the main season 1 stuff.
Yeah, the first 19
So.
episodes.
Mhm.
um,
And
oh yeah,
and
go ahead.
on that note, we'll only do season 2 after all episodes have aired. So keep
Yeah.
that in mind for when. I'm not sure when you're going to listen to this, but in case, we'll only do season 2 after all episodes have aired. As at the time of this recording, season 2 is not out yet.
Mm.
So
Just, for the
oh,
future, that's a general Outcast rule. We generally don't cover stuff as it airs.
mm,
Not saying we never will. We'll eat those words very quickly, I'm sure, but generally we don't.
yeah. So with that said, what are your general non-spoilery thoughts on the Owl House now that you have experienced it?
It was god awful.
Sure. We're talking about the animated Owl House Wolf, not the inevitable Disney live action remake.
Oh god. Oh god. I'm interested. I'm very interested in what that would be like. But no. I Have you seen Gravity Falls?
Yes, I did.
I was very much reminded of Gravity Falls
Mhm.
when I saw this. Like it
Fun fact, actually, Alex Hirsch, the creator of Gravity Falls, who also voices Stan Seuss in that show, is the voice of King and Hoodie in The Owl House.
that makes a lot of sense. That makes a
and
lot
apparently
of
he
sense.
also and apparently he also helped, the creator Dana Terrace. I want to say that's how you pronounce her name. So he also helped her, developing it and stuff. So that's pretty cool. So and I can see what you mean. It does have some Falls
It
vibes
definitely
to
puts
it.
me in that mind, right? That mindset. Even the opening jingle feels like very reminiscent of the opening jingle for
Yeah,
Gravity Falls.
I get what you mean. Yeah.
Like it just feels way too similar, and the animation also, doesn't help much. It looks very similar as well, just more fluid.
I think, yeah, I think
Now,
Owl
with
House
that,
does look a bit.
I think,
It's
yeah,
a bit
I
more
would agree. I
fluid.
think Owl House looks better, and especially once we get to certain parts in certain episodes, Owl House looks amazing animation wise. But we'll get
Yes.
there. But I was definitely reminded of Gravity Falls watching this. With that
Mhm.
said, I do think while it has some similarities, it does set itself apart. I will say that for me, right, going into the Owl House, I was expecting something more story centered, and the Owl House starts off a bit more episode of the week until it gets to
Mhm.
its final
Yeah,
quarter
there
where it
is
starts
a
picking up
general
the steam.
story.
There's a
There is like a.
yeah, there's like background stuff going on for a while, and then once you get to a certain point, the background that background information that you've been getting and they've been kind of building up comes to the foreground. But that
Mhm.
doesn't happen until much later in the season. So I will say, if you're not into episodic stories for a time, then you may not like this as much. I will admit, I found this one a little bit slow to start with, but it is a first season. Generally, with first seasons, that slower start is used to build up the characters and the world, and that's what they use here. And to be fair, I
Mhm.
think they use it to good effect. I never felt
Yeah,
bored
because.
while watching. I never felt like, okay,
Mhm.
this is dragging on. Can we please get to the more interesting bits? I always
And
felt
on that note,
entertained.
yeah, and on that note, such wonderful characters and such
Yeah.
a fun world to
Hmm.
explore and learn about.
Yep, very much so. Like, I really. didn't find myself hating any of these characters or
Mhm.
disliking any of them or
No,
like
no,
God, this character,
all of
like
them are
even the
great.
characters that's meant to be annoying, I ended up finding
Yeah,
endearing. Like
like
Hootie.
obviously Hood is supposed to be annoying, but I don't care. I love this thing.
Yeah, Hootie is just absolutely wonderful. I love him. He is.
Mhm.
I would be his friend. I would probably
Good luck.
hate it after a while, but I would be Hootie's friend.
Yeah.
Like Hootie would be
Yeah,
best friend.
yeah, maybe get a couple of beers and go talk to him near the door. But just remember to leave. Just remember to say you need to go to sleep early or something
Once
because he won't.
once the high starts wearing off, it's time to go. But while you're
Hmm.
high, he'd be your best friend. The
Hmm.
Berkcast and Outcast does not endorse drug use. Do so at your own risk, kids.
Um, yeah. Kids, dude, not if it's 18 or below. God damn.
I'm an old man. Everyone's a kid to me, HC. I'm allowed to say
You still need to be specific about this.
that. They'll figure it out.
No. Okay, I do not speak for this man. This is not a drill. Police take him. I'm not a part of this. I'm out. Bye.
But yeah, Owl House. It's it's fun. I like I said, I think it's slow start. It takes it a bit to build up, but I don't think. But I like I said, I never found myself being bored or feeling like, okay, can we please get past this? This is just It never felt like that. It
Mhm.
always felt like each episode, even though it was different, and even though not every episode contributes to some overarching major story, it does contribute to Luz's, our main character, overarching main goal, which is to learn magic. Like every episode does contribute to that in some way. And because of that,
Yeah.
I never found it boring and I always found it enjoyable to watch
And
her.
there's also the kind of constant growth regarding Ida's character. You
Mhm.
know, her caretaker for all intents and purposes.
Mhm. So yeah, like if you want, my recommendation, go out and watch Owl House. I don't think like if you're like me and you
Yeah.
like story centric stuff and you like stuff to have that overarching plot throughout its entire run, you might find it a bit slow to start with, but I think it definitely builds up quite quickly. It gets to where it needs to, and I never felt bored while watching it, even though I don't like episodic stuff all
Mhm.
that much. Never felt bored. Enjoyed it the whole way through.
Yeah, and I will definitely recommend that if you're looking for something fun, easy to digest, and just a good time.
Mm-hmm.
With that said, spoilers. So episode one, which by the way, might as well get this out of the way. Apparently, the first letter of each episode name spells out a witch loses a true way.
Mm-hmm. Basically, going the whole Gravity Falls thing of secret messages. Ooh, what's going to happen?
Basically,
Ooh.
as long as there's no demonic pyramid trying to take over the world, I guess we'll be
No, it's just gonna be a demonic owl.
probably. Well, it is the Owl House, so yeah, probably. But yeah, things first. When we said we don't really dislike any of these characters, and like, how many times have we seen a character like Luz, who's like an outcast in her own, in her own home and stuff, but when she get and then like when she becomes a fish out of water in a magic world, people are not sure how to digest her. But there's something about her that's just fun to watch. And then that like this, the minute you see her, like, you're like, I like this girl. She's awesome.
Oh yeah, she's wonderful.
Agreed.
Like I,
But
I
yeah,
don't know, I don't know what else to tell you. Luz is just a wonderful character. Like you've seen,
mhm,
there are countless like, oh, it's the outcast who's different, but it, again, like this doesn't feel Luz doesn't make it feel old. You're very much used to
mhm.
the whole outcast characters feeling old because they're everywhere in
Yeah,
everything.
I think kind of what makes her such. such a fun character. It's kind of something that she is an outcast. She is like the fish out of water, but at the same time, she also has this kind of naivete that, for lack of a better term, that SpongeBob kind of has. That it's a kid's naive side, which is, and when she's excited about something, you can tell she's legit excited about this, and she kind of sucks you into getting excited about the stuff
Mhm.
she's excited about.
I mean, it makes sense because she is like, what, 13, 14 at most, probably
Something like
younger.
that, yeah.
I don't know
Mhm.
ages, but yeah, like she's very young. She's still impressionable. She's still learning. She has that optimism about the world and everything around her, and the fact that she's not been beaten down by the cynicism in the world and life yet. And
Mhm.
you can tell that. And again, the voice actress for Luz does a wonderful. Love her voice.
Mhm.
Love everything about her. She's adorable and wonderful.
Mhm. And then when she gets
And I will
to
say, right,
them,
like they don't play up her quirkiness either. Like, yes, she's quirky in the regular human world, and even when she gets to the world of the Owl House itself, I forget the name of it, the Boiling Isles.
yeah, same.
Even when
The
she gets
body
there, right,
markers, yes.
she's still quirky, but she doesn't stand out as much and she still stands out, but she stands out in a very different way. And
Yeah, and
sh
she also, and I mentioned SpongeBob, which might not be the best comparison but because she's not just naive and wide-eyed all the time. She does stand up when things don't go her way or when someone annoys her. She's not necessarily,
I mean, she's not an idiot. She is
afraid of.
smart. You can tell that she's smart, right? And you can, she's
Yeah,
naive about this world, but she's not an idiot. She is smart. She is, I guess you'd say, quote unquote, streetwise, right? Like she does get it.
yeah, and she does also have those heartfelt moments, like
Mm-hmm.
whenever she's trying to text her mom or something about how she's doing, you can tell there's like this sincerity to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess jumping a bit ahead, to the ending, when she has to sacrifice her way of going home, you can
Spoilers.
tell it legit hurts her.
We're supposed to do it episode by episode. Spoilers. God,
One, we're in the spoiler section. Who cares? Two,
I
you know
gotta,
what? We didn't really. We never. We stopped kind of doing this episode by episode a long
I
time ago.
gotta
So
make
what
the
the
joke
hell?
every time. I gotta make the joke every time. I gotta
Well, you
run it
are
into the
unfunny,
ground.
and you don't have credit, and you lost the ability to call me unfunny. So yeah.
Oh, I've never said I wasn't unfunny, HC. But yeah,
Well, good. Good
wonderful
on you
character,
for
love
owning
her.
up to it, I guess. But speaking of
Since we're
characters,
speaking
though,
of characters, yeah, Ada,
yeah, I love Ida. And like
she's wonderful
again,
too.
Like because if Luz is like the kid preteen innocence, Ida is the grumpy old lady that's
She's
had
sassy aunt.
enough.
She's
Yeah.
sassy aunt. She's sassy aunt. She's sassy great aunt. She's like great aunt who doesn't
Mhm.
give a shit. She lives by her own rules and she does what she wants to
Yeah, and
do, and she's sassy.
and when you learn more and more about her, not necessarily her curls per se, but just the fact that she was expelled from school, she's not on good terms with her sister at all. She's a wanted fugitive and stuff. You can tell she's just kind of those people that lived her life, and she's not really happy with where she is. She's kind of a kid's version of a midlife crisis, honestly.
Well, I mean, I think she's happy with where she is. She just, yeah, 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 sure. We'll go with that. I mean, again, it's one of those, Ada is she wants to see things change, but she's not the one who's going to do it, right?
Mhm. Yeah, and that's why her and Luz work so well together, because on the one hand,
I mean,
Ida does teach her magic and tells her, "Listen, magic is not just a one and done thing. You need to practice it. You need to train for it. You have a lot to learn, and you're not gonna do this by just fantasizing. And but at the same time, Luz also kind of exposes Ida to the world again, and she does, and it's thanks to Luz that Ida is supposed to be like, you know, you know what, the world isn't all bad.
I mean, again, right?
Like,
Like, Ada's the older adult. She has that cynicism. She's been kind of beaten down by it, and she's tired of it all,
mhm,
right? Like,
yeah,
she has the cynicism. She's the one who tells Luz, like, hey, be careful who you run across. Don't trust this person and don't trust that person, and don't, take things at face value because they're not, as good as they seem. Like, second episode, right? Like, Luz has to
mhm,
deliver potions, and Ida tells her, like, don't trust a wizard wearing sandals. And we meet a
yeah,
wizard wearing sandals, and guess what? He was actually a demon who's here to suck out your soul, and he captures
yeah.
and like destroy Ida so he can take over her business. And he almost does that
True,
because
but at
Luz
the
was
same
foolish enough
time,
to trust him.
mhm,
But
but at the
again,
same time, there's also the convention. There's also the convention episode where Luz kind of begs Ida to come with her to the convention, and Ida ends up having a great time there.
like
On
again,
that,
it's they both teach each other about the world and how to
exactly.
live within it in a way that
On that note,
one of them didn't know
on
and
that
one of them
note,
had forgotten.
yeah. On that note, God, I miss going to conventions.
Soon, hopefully, soon. TM.
Hopefully. Mhm. Well, and also, like, we can't forget about the other, about about the other person in the loud house, not necessarily a person, but King. King is awesome.
King is adorable. You can tell they
Just
had a lot of
don't tell him that because he might not like it.
probably not, but I still would anyways. I love how they treat him like just an adorable puppy, and he hates it but also loves it all at the same time.
Yep, he's indecisive, and we love him for it.
I also love the fact that, he does use the cuteness to his advantage. Like, he hates it, but he still uses it. He still realizes it and knows it. And it's like, well, might as well use it. So, because he has the whole
Yeah,
rage squeak thing. God, that's so adorable and over the top. And I love it. It's so dumb. He's just, King is
yeah,
a
King
fun
is great.
character. King is a great character. And I'm fully expecting them to, like, come out in another season at some point and say, like, King's been saying he's the king of demons all this time, and he actually is, and you see him turn into this like truly monstrous demon out of nowhere at some
Yep.
point. I'm fully expecting that to be the case at some point.
And by the way, I love in the first episode that they kind of tell Luz, listen, we'll get you back to the human world if you help us find King's crown, and then it just ends up being like a kid's meal
Yeah,
toy,
yeah.
and it's like, oh god damn it, this is the kind of character we're dealing with.
This is
I
the kind
love
of
him.
world we're dealing with too.
Yeah. But speaking of world and characters, we also, we also have the kids that Luz eventually becomes friends with when she goes to not Hogwarts. I mean the magic school. Among them, we have Willow, who is wholesome. We have Gus, who is excitable, and we have Emily, which is the character everyone is talking about.
Well, they're not talking about
And it's
just
not
her.
because she's voiced and it's not because she's voiced by this podcast's darling May Whitman. There is another reason.
Yeah, it's
Because we
because
really
they're.
covered a lot of things with May Whitman in them, and we'll probably do so in the future.
I mean, it's hard not to.
Hmm.
May Whitman is wonderful.
Yeah, she is.
But again, like again, going talking about voice actors, all of the voice actors in this are just absolutely solid. Like, well done. You have to give them credit, right? Like, you have to give them credit on their work because they do amazing in this show. Like, none of the voice, like again, even the voices that like, oh, this voice is supposed to be annoying. You're supposed to not like this character. It's kind of
Yeah, like
endearing.
Hootie. Like you can tell that Hoodie's voice was kind of given the direction of do the most annoying thing you can. But I think kind of like how when you want to make something cute but it ends up being annoying, I think this kind of had the opposite effect here. When they tried making him annoying, but he ends up being amazing.
I mean, yeah, yeah, yep.
Actually, there's this episode where King when Gus interviews them, and he's like, "Someone wants to hear me talk."
My favorite was spoilers, right? My favorite was when the Emperor's Coven tries to attack the Owl House, and Hootie's just out there destroying the crap out of all of Ada's sister's minions, right? And it's just like he's just out there, like not even trying, and he's just beating the crap out of them. He's just being himself and just being his, annoying, kind of creepy self, and it's just he's winning, and it's just ridiculous and wonderful. And that's when I knew. That's when I'd already enjoyed Hootie, but that's when I knew I love him. I don't care how annoying they make him. I'm always going to love him. He's wonderful. That was just amazing.
I I agree. I agree. Um, I'm trying to think if there's anything else to point out regarding Hoodie or King, because I did start talking about the school people,
Yeah, we can
and
move
I
on to
think we
them.
should.
Amity,
Yeah.
Willow, and Gus.
hmm
So the first instance we get of the school is, I think, upon in episode 4,
No, three.
3, 3,
Which,
3.
by the way,
Yes, it's 3.
has my favorite. What's it called? Uh, as my favorite parody name because the name of the episode is "I Was a Teenage Abomination," which is a parody of "I Was a Teenage Werewolf."
Mm-hmm.
So, GG, it's great.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, like a little bit about episode 3. This is where Luz pretends to be Willow's abomination so she can get into the school and see it, because Ada's not the best of teachers. I think by that time Luz had learned no magic.
But since we mentioned Amity, you know what? Let me just say this about her. I like how Helen loses. You know, I like how Helen loses relationship actually grows because they start. We've seen the lovers to enemies trope in other things, but it felt natural here. Almost that I didn't mind that it's a cliche. Honestly,
For who again? Say again.
Amity.
Oh, the relationship between Luz and Amity.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it starts off, she doesn't know what to think about her. She's not very happy with her. But, you can tell over time that, Luz does kind of win Amity over, and they begin to become friends. And even a little
hmm
bit more than that, maybe. I do want to point out, right, like getting into it, like the
Yes.
big thing that people, especially the LGBTQ fandom, love about the show is the fact that Luz and, well, at the very least, Amity's, gay for Luz, right? She's very much like, I like her. But they never,
hmm
the way I was given to understand it, I was expecting more like, oh no, they're way up front about it very quickly. These two are like in an actual relationship together. It's not quite that. Like, that's what I was
hmm
thinking coming into this. Like, I was expecting, okay, you're going to have these two characters very much in a relationship very quickly. No, it's
Yeah.
very much kind of a slow burn, and you don't really see much on either end of this relationship until closer to the end of the
Yeah,
season.
it's like halfway through the season, which again I like that it feels natural. It's taking its time. It's not just
Oh, sure,
throwing
yeah,
you in
it's
and
not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing at all.
Mhm.
Like, I think the big thing is, which episode is it?
If you're talking about the dance,
Yeah, Enchanting Grom Fight, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's the episode
Yeah.
where you finally see like Luz and Amity really have a actual
But even
romantic
before
bond
this,
together.
when Luz actually starts attending the school, there's a point where there are these kids who show her how you can teleport to different parts of the school really quickly. And there's a point where Luz actually teleports and listens to Amity like have this, okay, you're going to the same school. Don't freak out about this. And it's like, okay, that's like a point
Well, you also
that's a
had.
point where like
Oh, go ahead.
No, but like, okay, this is a point where you're starting to think, okay, maybe she sees her as more than just a friend, because you could argue at this point, they started off on opposite sides, and then there's this library episode with Emily's older siblings,
Hmm.
where they actually learn more about each other, and you're like, okay, they're becoming friends, and then there's the episode in the snow where they find out they can complement each other with their own type of magic. And then there's this episode where it's like, okay, so now you see that Amity actually grows to like Luz as more than just a friend. And you're
Hmm.
not really sure what Luz's stance on this is. And then you get the Grum episode, which is like, yeah, these two are gonna have some
Yeah,
fun in later
yeah.
on.
That's what I was getting at. Like it very much starts off as Amity's, feelings being kind of one sided at first, and you're just kind of subtly given them, those little hints here and there.
Mhm.
And then you finally get to the Grom episode and you see, like, okay, it's not just one sided. Nothing has massively really happened with it yet, but it's very much not one sided. It's these two together, right? Like they do both have a thing for one another. They do both like one another, and it's probably expected that you'll see them together in a later season at some point. Which that's great.
Mhm.
Like I said, I'm all
Yeah.
for more LGBTQ representation. I'm loving it. Shiro is
Yeah, and
great,
speaking of which,
and this
since
looking like it's going
since
to
we
turn out to be
mentioned
great.
this, mhm. Since we mentioned this, I do want to talk a bit about the Graham episode for a few reasons, because I didn't know about this until I kind of refreshed my memory of the show for this
Hmm.
podcast. But because apparently, one of the episode's co-writers, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing her name, but Molly, like Molly Ostertag, one who co-wrote this episode, is the wife of Noel Stevenson. She ran the Princesses of Power creator, and
Oh.
yeah, and apparently after this episode aired, Noel actually made her an invitation to go to Grum with her, and they actually took pictures of them in fancy clothing and stuff to celebrate the episode. This is
Oh.
super cool.
Yeah, that's neat. That's adorable.
Yeah, that's amazing. And speaking of which, apparently Grum was actually an inside joke among the writers for gay prom.
Of course.
Mm.
It's always
And the
something that's
one,
very simple, of course. I'm not
yeah.
surprised at all.
Mhm. And the last thing I'll say about that is that after watching that episode, I really liked the dance sequence they had at the end of it.
Yes.
It's
It's
an amazing
this
scene.
is what I'm
Like,
talking about, where you can see, like, hands down to the animators and everyone who worked on the animation and the rigging and the lighting, everything. Like they look amazing at times. Like there are times where, like, yeah, it looks good, but then there's where they decided, okay, this is a scene we need to like really go in on, and they do. And this is one
mhm,
of those scenes. Like the dance is just so fluid looking, so amazing to watch. Like it's just great. And that's not the only
yeah,
time. It gets even better in a later episode where
mhm.
they're like, this episode, this is all the budget. End of discussion. You probably, if
But
you've seen the show,
yeah,
you know what I'm talking about already. But like,
yeah.
damn, that surprised me. But we'll get there. We will get there.
Yeah, but one last thing about the dance is that I like that part so much that I kind of drew fan out of it on my Instagram. Go check out HC Does Art on Instagram, shameless plug.
Hmm.
And I just kind of did it out of fun and out of appreciation for the episode because I really enjoyed it, and that's in particular. And it didn't get as many likes as some of the artists we had there on the show, but like, this is my most liked post on my art account on Instagram. So it also kind of has a special this episode kind of has a special place in my heart for that reason too. So yeah, that's a
Hmm.
thing. But so we talked about Luz and Amity, but another episode I really ended up liking is the one where Luz and Amity kind of go into Willow's memories because Amity trying to hide the secret that she and Willow were friends when they were kids,
Mm-hmm.
kind of messes something up with Willow's personality. And again, it's kind of the episode tropes that I like, that you can actually go into a character's mind and see how they think, to see how they do stuff and everything.
Well, it also gives you
And
a nice view into the past, right, as well, which is
mhm,
nice because it gives
exactly.
you more of the it gives you more of not just Willow but also Amity, and you kind of learn that Willow and Amity had this parting of ways, and Willow was very much of the thought and of the mind that Amity just didn't want to hang out with her anymore because she wasn't good enough and she wasn't cool enough and she wasn't rich enough and all this, and come to find out it's just Amity's parents were being dicks.
Yeah.
Asshole, snobby rich people. Go figure.
Mhm. But
Eat the
another thing
rich.
I like about this is that because that episode could have ended with Amity saying "I'm sorry" and stuff. I didn't mean it, and Willow just said all is forgiven. But Willow actually says, "No, okay, you took a step in the right direction, but
But
I'm
it's not
not ready
enough.
to be
Yeah.
friends." Yeah,
Absolutely
and
loved that. That was such again, that
yeah, and
was a
it's
great
like
moment too.
again treating kids with respect. Thank you.
Like, yeah, it's she's been treated like poorly by Amity. Even if it wasn't Amity the one who was treating her poorly, Amity said nothing. She did nothing. She allowed her to be bullied and treated poorly for so long. And it's like, yeah, sure, you may not have been the
and
one
and
doing it,
also
but you didn't
and
help me. You
also the
didn't
first
stand up
thing.
for me.
Mhm. And the first thing we see of this show is or the first thing we see of any of these characters is Amity bullying Willow for not getting the abomination right.
Hmm.
So so we seeing this is one. It's kind of legit shock that they were friends at some point, and two, it does show. Yeah, you know what? Emily doesn't deserve forgiveness right away. She needs to walk a bit.
Yeah, she's gotta earn that friendship again, which again that makes sense. That's understandable. She doesn't. You don't just get to. It's not. That's not how the world works. That's not how friends work. If you're a dick, you don't get to just instantly be friends because you said I'm sorry. That's not enough.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to be willing to actually put your put the words into play. Like actually be there. Actually do better. If the only thing you're going to do is say sorry and then go right back to just ignoring the person, sorry's not good enough. Screw you. I don't have to forgive you. And I'm
Yeah.
glad they showed that here because again, that tells kids, hey, just because someone says I'm sorry, that sometimes isn't enough, and it's okay if that's not enough for you. It's okay if
Mhm.
they say sorry, but you still need more from them. That's understandable and
Yeah.
that's okay. Like a lot of kids shows, it's like, oh, they said sorry. You have to forgive them now. You have to move on now. You have to let all those terrible things they might have done go now because they said, I'm sorry. No.
Mhm.
And I'm glad that
No,
we're having kid
there's
shows actually stand up and say, yeah, no, that's not the right way to do it. You need to, if they've done a lot of terrible shit, you need more than sorry. You need to actually show it and do it, not just say it. Which again, props to Our House for doing that. That's something that I'll say Shira wasn't quite as good at, right? Like they were a little too. Oh, Shira was a little too quick to forgive at times, right? Like in some of their characters,
Mhm.
right? Someone would do something and be like, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean it," and then we kind of go right back to the same thing of are you sorry though? Because you're
Yeah.
acting better, but you're still acting similar. Like that was like I love Shira, but that was one of its problems where it would move past things a bit too quickly. I'm glad that
Yeah.
here they
Again.
do show that and they do have that scene. It makes a difference.
Yep. Mhm. But
Speaking
so yeah, agreed. Agreed.
of other characters
Definitely.
were introduced that kind of have something to do with the school. Well, this
Mhm.
one doesn't, but Lilith, Ida's sister. What do you think of her?
Um, I liked her as you know, because she's supposed to be the anti-Ida, but at the
Hmm.
same time she's supposed to be like, you know, kind of similar to her, and I think they struck the right balance of how to make her similar to her sister, but also make it obvious why they ended up on different sides.
I'm very.
And
Oh, go ahead.
no, and I do like kind of like this dynamic because it is kind of because again this is to show how good these characters are. This is a conflict we've seen a lot of times in other shows that like there were siblings who kind of ended up going in different directions. One turned in the in
One
like the
turned.
better,
Well,
yeah, and
I
one
wouldn't say
ended up in
better.
the
One
better
just,
place.
they went very much different paths. Like Ida's the,
Yeah.
screw the rules and I make my own
Mhm.
way, and Lilith's very much, follow the rules and do things the right way and
Yeah, but in terms of the context of the
quote
world
unquote
itself,
right way. Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. I get you.
in the context of the world they live in,
Hmm.
Lilith is
Hmm.
like doing the right thing while Ida is doing the wrong thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
quote unquote.
but
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, I get
yeah,
you.
again, I mean, again, in context of this world,
Hmm.
not
Hmm.
necessarily that you have to agree with it,
Hmm.
because honestly, Ida for the win.
Oh yeah.
but on that note, one thing that I kind of like that they made Ida the older of the two, which in any other show it would be the
Is she older?
elder sib. I
She.
think she's the older.
I thought they were either
I think she
same age
is.
or Lilith was older, but you could be right. Like I said, I never really paid attention to ages as much.
As much as I remember, Ida is the older one, and you can kind of see it with the designs too. So, this is another thing I like that usually in this kind of conflict, it's the elder sibling that's like follow the rules, set an example and stuff, and be the younger sibling that rebels. And here it's like, you know what? No, it's the elder one that just kind of said, you know what? Fuck the system. I'm out. And but at the same time, you can also kind of tell whoever you think is right in this thing. You can also tell that they are of similar strengths despite the path they took. Because whenever they get into a fight, they do give each other a fight. It's not that one has an advantage over the other.
Yeah, I was going to bring up. I'm very curious to see where they take Ida and Lilith's relationship and how they
Yeah,
develop that.
because
Because
they do end the season on a better note than when we saw them
yeah,
on the start.
so I guess spoilers, right? Like we find out. I thought this one was a
Dude,
bit.
we're in the spoiler section for like minutes.
I don't know. I'm just
Stop
used.
saying that. Everything.
Never. No spoilers. But yeah, yeah. Spoilers. We find out that Lilith, is the one who gave Ida her curse, right? Like Ida has this curse of she will turn into a giant owl monster unless she drinks an elixir all the time. And as you learn
Yeah.
throughout the show in the kind of the background a little bit, the elixirs not doing as good and the curse is getting worse and worse and worse. And Lilith is trying to bring Ada into the Emperor's
Which,
coven.
by the way, before sorry to interrupt, but
Oh,
that's
go ahead.
another thing that when you say this show is more episodic, but when you start build, ever since the first episode where it's hinted that Ida has this problem, I think they handled the pacing of it very well,
Oh yeah.
like how they
Like I
build it
said,
up.
I never felt bored by it, and I felt like I was still learning a little bit here and there as it went on, but it was very much in the background a lot of the times. Like the focus was on, like I would say, the focus was on a goal, like not a story, not a plot arc, but a goal arc. Our goal arc was Luz learning magic, right? Like that's our goal at the start. Is Luz is here, she wants to learn magic, and that's kind of how that's what we follow. We follow this goal arc with Luz. While at the same time, in the background, we have this, plot arc of the Emperor's Coven and the Emperor himself of the Boiling Isles, and and the society that this place lives in, how magic is done, and how Ida very much disagrees with this idea of the fact that the Emperor came in out of nowhere and kind of created these covens and said, hey, you have to focus in one track of magic. You can't just use all magic together. That's wrong. That's the wrong way to do things. Only the emperor is allowed to do things, is to use all kinds of magic all at the same time. Very suspicious. Only the Emperor's
Mhm.
Coven witches can use all types of magic at the same time. And if you are like Ada and this wild witch and this wild magic where you use all different types of magic and you don't belong to a coven, you're doing it wrong. You're illegal. You're
Mhm.
breaking the law. There's a bounty out for your head. And we even have this institute where we send rule breakers and weird people to be changed, forcefully changed. Like, I see what you're doing, show. Like, hot damn, that's really on the nose, though. Like, bringing that up, actually, by the way. Like, forcefully changing people. Like, shit, they went there. And a Disney
Yeah.
show at that. Like, we're just outright saying, like, hey, the
You
forced
know, it is
LGBT
kind of
changing
it is kind
people,
of
damn.
since we did start this with a Disney tangent, I am kind of surprised that sometimes Disney TV can get darker and more,
That
and
is, yeah,
more.
that is something. Like, Disney TV actually does say, you know what? The things you don't see in the movies, we're gonna kind of get by with that a bit more. Like, I don't know how they do
Yeah.
it, but they've just Disney's like, eh, it's a TV, I guess. It's not our movies. Not as many people watch it, I suppose. I don't know. I don't know how
This,
the shows get by with as much, because even Gravity Falls was like this too, right? Like, they got by with probably
yeah.
more than a Disney movie would have been able to get by with. Let's be
Hmm.
honest. But yeah,
Yeah,
like,
like because no disrespect
oh yeah,
to
no, no,
some of Disney's recent theatrical outings, but like when you take into account that let's put us against, let's say, Frozen for a second, like both Frozen, like Frozen is rated PG, and I don't know, wouldn't this be more worthy of a PG rating than Frozen?
yeah, no, no.
Mhm.
I'd say this wouldn't be. In some ways, yeah, maybe, but in others, I think, what is this, PG-13?
PG-13, it means like better not watch it unless you are 13 and
It,
above, which I
it,
won't say is that.
it also means PG-13. You can generally, like, any young kids can watch this, but you probably would want to have, like, if you're a parent, you'd want to be there with them to watch it with them. Like,
No, this is just PG.
this is just PG. Yeah, I'm kind of
Yeah.
surprised by that. The Owl House getting a PG rating. If you had told me, yeah, again, like, I would have expected the outhouse to be PG-13. To be honest, like, what I watched,
Mhm.
what I saw, I would have thought, oh, this is PG-13 rating. It's PG though. That's
Yeah,
surprising.
but at the same time, when let's take into account that like most Disney movies, like I mentioned Frozen, but I think also Moana, the Wreck-It Ralph movies, Zootopia, all of those. Actually, yeah, we did Zootopia. What are we talking about? We did do a Disney movie, doy. But But yeah, all of
Eh.
those were PG, and like maybe Zootopia earns it a bit more, but like I think this would this is like you said, this is like PG-13
Well,
territory.
let's be honest
Well,
with ourselves. A lot of shows and films come out with the PG-13 rating, but let's be honest with ourselves. PG-13 is kind of just the new PG. You might as well just get rid of PG at this point and just call everything PG-13, because that's what you're doing anyways.
you know what? Very sadly, you're not wrong.
Like, almost everything comes out, it's like PG-13,
Oh,
and it's like,
oh, you know what? Just get rid of PG.
yeah,
Like
just get rid of
some
PG at this
PG,
point.
some PG rated movies I can show. Like there are a lot of PG movies I can like. Yeah, um, I can
Like,
show kids this, and there's
I have
nothing.
seen things rated PG, and it's like, I think that should be a PG-13 rating. I'm surprised it's not. I don't know how you got by with that, to be honest. The Outhouse is one of these things. Like, I get it. I understand why it's PG, but if you had told me it would have been PG-13, I wouldn't have batted an eye. I would have been like, yeah, that makes sense. So, I mean, at this point, I think we should just get rid of PG, but that's an entirely different topic for another time. But
Mhm.
I like, I'm, yeah. Where was we?
Where was
Rambling,
we? What is
ranting.
grammar? But
Where was we? Yes,
But
that's right. I English good.
I may just remind you all, if you couldn't tell by the accents, he's the American one.
No, I'm
But
definitely not from the U.S. Not at all.
debatable. But anyway, where was I with this? So I had a point and I lost it.
We
Damn it!
were talking
But
about the fact that the outhouse went there with the whole
yeah.
quite literally just kind of
But with the final episodes, I do want one of the things that I enjoyed, and again, this is not something that's new. It's not something that hasn't been done before, and that's Luz sacrificing her way of getting home in order to save Vida
well
at the end.
before that, right? I wanted to bring up that I'm interested to see where they go with Ida and Lilith's relationship because going back to the Gravity Falls reference, right? Like we didn't have Stan and his, brother that
Oh
reveal
yeah.
until much, much, much later. Like that was very late in the game and you didn't really get a lot of back and forth or kind of I guess you'd say you didn't get a good look into Stan and Ford's relationship with one another. Like you got some enough to kind of know why they were not so friendly with one another now and why they had issues and why they were able to reconcile, right? Like you got that kind of look. But for this, we have Ida and Lilith pretty much introduced season 1, right? Season 1 you have Ida and Lilith, they're both sisters and now you have at the end of it all Ida and Lilith both kind of losing their magic and you have this, excuse me, and you have
Yeah.
this setup where Ida and Lilith are both kind of living together now because they're both on the run now. And they
Mhm.
both lose their magic because Lilith takes on part of Ida's curse in order to help cure her because the Emperor wouldn't do so and had no plans to do so. So it's going to be interesting to see where they take the relationship between these two moving forward because that's not something Gravity Falls did, right? Like again, Stan and Ford, that relationship was introduced fairly late into the game, into the story, right? This is much earlier on, so it'll
Yes.
be interesting to see where they take this moving forward because again, like Stan and Ford, like that was a big part of the mystery, like what was Stan hiding, right? And where was all that going to go? The mystery here is a lot more subtle, I feel. And that's
Yeah.
another thing where
Because you can also tell that, Luz may have gotten to this world by accident, but you can tell she does. The two worlds are more connected than we may think, and
yeah,
Luz
like
has some sort of a reason to connect these two worlds. She wasn't just there by happenstance.
like the,
She
the
has a larger role to play.
the big mystery pushing you forward at first is Luz is told, "Well, you're human. You literally can't do magic because you don't have the ability to do it because you're not a witch, right? Like you don't have the magic gland thing."
Mhm.
Because that's like they have a magic bile sac. That's what witches have that allow them to do magic. Okay, show, cool. I don't think I wanted to know that, but okay. I guess I'm glad
It
you
works.
explained it.
It works.
I'm not saying it doesn't work. I'm just saying I don't think I wanted to know that, but I guess now I do. Sure. I don't need to know how everything works, show. I'm happy with not knowing, but okay. Thanks, I guess. But yeah, you're introduced to that idea and eventually you see that Luz actually is able to do magic because she learns that there's in these magic circles that the witches cast, there's actually symbols within them. And then you learn a little bit later, right, that these symbols are in a lot of things on the Boiling Isles. And if you copy these symbols, you can do other kinds of magic as well. And this is something Luz learns. And that's kind of the mystery slowly driving you forward at first is what are these symbols? And you kind of learn that, the old witches before the Emperor and the covens came about did magic differently. Did it have something to do with this? And you kind of have this idea of, is this how the Emperor is able to cast magic, or what's going on there? And then you kind of start to learn about Ida's curse as well, and who cursed Ida. And that one, I personally felt wasn't that big of a mystery because the way they introduced Lilith and the way she acts and the fact that Lilith
Yeah,
desperately wants to get
I kind
Ida
of figured at
cured,
some point.
I kind of felt like, okay, she's the one who cursed Lilith. She's the one, Lilith, her sister's the one who cursed her. And then all of a sudden she blurts it out like,
Mhm,
yep, yep, saw that one coming. Not surprised at all.
mhm,
So then your mystery turns into, okay, why does the Emperor want the magic door that Ida has as the portal to Luz's, the human world? Why does the Emperor want that?
yeah,
Because he outright says, you probably think I want to take over, your world, don't you? Because he outright says to Luz in like the final episode, you probably think I want the door to take over your world, don't you? I don't want it for anything so crass. It's like, well, damn, okay. What do you want it for?
yeah.
Trying to feel
And
like,
again, you can tell that there's more of a connection between the worlds that we're not aware of yet.
mhm.
And it is interesting, and it is going. I am interested in seeing where this goes and how everything is going to play out.
Yeah, I mean, again, like I gotta give the Outhouse credit, right? Like I said before, they started off with this the thing carrying you forward was watching Luz accomplish her goal of learning magic. That was her goal, and that was the thing that drove us forward. It slowly started to switch into, okay, there's a bit of a mystery going on in the background. What's happening here? We're building up to something. And we eventually build up to, oh, the Emperor's Coven and the Emperor, and Luz destroys her way home. Although that way home, you find out at the end of the final episode, is being rebuilt by the Emperor. And so now the thing driving us forward is maybe Luz will still be learning magic, but that's no longer going to be the goal. The goal is going to be stopping the Emperor's Coven, potentially getting back the portal, potentially maybe trying to change how things are done with the covens in the Boiling Isles. Maybe that'll be a side thing that is achieved, but the main goal is going to be how is Luz going to get back home? Like that's going to be our main goal because she is trapped here now. And so I think, second season, you'll probably see it switch from being a bit more episodic to a bit more story focused. A lot more of your episodes will probably be trying to solve those goals and those plot threads now that they've started, which I find, which is a great
True.
way to start off, a season. Like you'll
And
see a lot of shows start off this
also,
way, which is great, and I
yeah,
think the
but
Outhouse does it quite well.
and this is the something I want to get into before that, again, we kind of seen this whole character who comes to a new world and has a chance to go home, but they sacrifice that in order to save the world they are currently in. We've seen this done in other shows before, but again, there's something sincere about Luz actually worrying that she won't see her mother again,
Hmm.
afraid that she won't be able to go to her actual home. And when she actually, there's the ending where she actually calls her mother at the end
Well,
and
texts
tells
her,
her,
or no, does a video
yeah,
recording.
yeah. I read video talk in the episode
Oh,
discussion,
okay.
so yeah, that's okay. But the fact she does tell her mother everything, that she wasn't in camp and that she found this thing and that she does promise to go home. Again, there's such sincerity to it, honest and such honesty and emotion that it's like, yeah, you know what? I feel sorry for this girl, and I hope that in some way she would be able to go home someday and also come back for all of her friends,
Well,
plus maybe girlfriend
you,
that's in this new world.
well, it's also, you have this thing of, you're interested in the Grom episode where Luz's greatest fear is, her mother finding out that she's been lying to her all this time, that she's not
Yeah,
been going
that's
to
a.
this like camp to, this
Mhm.
normal camp where you do normal things like figure out how to do taxes. Which, the show tries to make that off as a bad thing, like learning how to do taxes. That's so boring and normal. It's like, fuck you, show. That's important.
Well,
I wish school
yeah,
taught
but
that shit.
I get what you mean, but at the same time, you need to figure out that's from a kid's point of view. So when you were a kid, were you really thinking about how
I
important
wish
taxes
that
are?
shit's important. I wish I would have learned it in school and thought more of it. But shows like this told me that it was boring and I shouldn't bother. Fuck you, show.
Show you are talking about the show which came out now when you almost became
Almost 30.
29.
Almost 30. Almost
Well,
30.
when it came out, when it came out.
When it
That's
came
what
out,
I'm
yeah, I
saying.
was 20. Almost when it came out, I was almost 29. This is true. Now I'm almost 30, and I'm talking about it. God, I'm old. I'm old, and I think
uh,
taxes are a good thing. God, I'm
you
old.
want to see how I'm going to make you feel older?
I already feel old. I think learning how to do taxes is a good thing.
Oh,
Learn how to
I'm
do
going to make
taxes,
you feel
kids.
older. Wolf, dude, I'm going to make you feel older with just one sentence.
Mm-hmm.
Shrek is turning 20 this year.
Oh God. Oh God.
Aha, told ya.
I don't want to know. um, the Owl House.
Yeah,
We've
so
not
the
talked
Owl
about
House.
it. Our main villain, the Emperor. What did you think? We don't get a lot of him, but
He,
I'm curious to see more. I think
yeah,
they build him up very well.
that's exactly what I want to say. Like he has presence, he is threatening. I want to see more of him, but at
Mm-hmm.
the same time, I also need to see more of him because
Mm-hmm.
we don't get a lot of it. Which, and at the same, at the on the one hand, I kind of like it that for the first season, it's the less you see that makes him more creepy and more
Mm-hmm.
threatening. But at the same time, how he's going to be as a character, I still can tell you from the final two episodes alone. I need to see more of him in order to know.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. So, big question: Emperor, human or demon?
You know something? This is my theory about this.
Ooh, theories.
Considering he has such a fascination with the human world, I want to say that he might have been human,
Mm-hmm.
but became more a demon the more time he's in in this
Ooh,
world.
very possible. Interesting. We'll have to see if you turn out to be right.
I'm not trying to guess if you know to be
Oh,
right
sure,
or
sure,
not.
sure.
If
Again, I think
anything,
it's interesting. That's why I
I
asked.
kind of like being wrong.
Oh,
I kind of
sure.
like being wrong with those kind of things because then it means that the show is one step ahead of me and I'm surprised.
Yes, yes,
But
absolutely.
mhm.
It's fun to be right and to say, like, with all the information you have at your fingertips, even
if
that you haven't been able to
actually,
that you
if
that
I
you can get it
may
guess it right. But it's also really fun to say, wow, I did not see that coming. That surprised me. It's even more fun to get
if I
surprised
may talk
completely.
about a Disney show that kind of disappointed me in that regard, the Tangled series,
Mm.
where somebody just threw a stupid speculation in the comment section of the clip once, and then it ended up being canon, and I just shouted at the screen, "Are you fucking kidding me? We're doing this!" And no joke, that honestly killed that show for me. I haven't seen Tangled the series until the end because that was just ridiculous.
I don't know. I kind of like that, right? Just being able to say, here's a dumb idea. They'll never do it, and then they do it, and it's just kind of. I personally enjoy that, just
I
because.
like it in
Oh,
an ironic sense, that I can
yeah.
have a few beers with friends and make fun of it. But in terms of actual storytelling, boo, just
If it's
boo.
done well, it's not bad. But yeah, like it.
It's not done well, Wolf. It's not done
I'm just
well.
saying in a general sense, right? If it's done well, it's not a terrible thing. But yeah, if you're able to guess the plot from just a stupid offhanded comment of wouldn't it be silly sort of thing if they did X, Y, or Z and then they do X, Y, or Z, you're probably not the best doing the best at writing potentially. But
Mhm.
at the same time, not everything's going to be that, right? And again, I do enjoy being surprised. I do enjoy, like, hey, this is what I think's going to happen, and then they pull something completely out of left field, right? That I
Yeah.
didn't expect or didn't think of. I enjoy that, so I do agree with you. But yeah, something else I
But
want to talk about.
on
Oh, go
that
ahead.
note, for the Emperor, my idea is he was human, but became more demon the longer he stayed in this world. What are
Hmm.
your thoughts?
I'm currently going with human as well. I don't know, maybe possibly changed, maybe something to do because he does say he can communicate with like the boiling isles themselves, which used to apparently be a titan, which that was like a big drop that they did. Like, hey, they actually live on this giant monster, and this giant monster is where all the magic comes from. That was such a
Yeah.
big drop of background lore information, and it's just such a
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, we live on a giant dead beast. Moving on very quickly, just kind
Yeah.
of dropped and moved on from. It's
Actually,
like, wait,
speaking
what?
of,
Go back a minute. What was that? You live on a what? And this dude can speak with it? What? What now? You want to like back up and give a bit more on that because that sounds important. So
yeah.
I don't know. I'm
Speaking
figuring
of
either
though,
human or maybe he's like Titan, or the really out there theory that I'll give you: the Emperor is
mhm.
king from the future.
Yeah,
Boom.
that's another thing I wanted to say that King saying that he's the king of demons. This is like they're playing it off as a joke, but something tells me it's not necessarily
I'm
a
going.
joke. It's gonna have some sort of a role,
I mean,
in the future.
it's when you say Alex Hirsch is involved, immediately people are going to overthink, right? Because Gravity
Yeah.
Falls, right? Eh, And
Then again,
overthinking,
just
like,
because he helped, just
oh
because
yeah,
you
oh
need
yeah,
to realize that in this kind of show, he's more a voice actor than a writer.
oh
So
yeah, but still, yet
he,
once you
who
say he's
knows?
involved, people are going to overthink because Gravity Falls, because he conditioned them to do that. So that actually might work in the show's favor. That where they can play stuff off a lot easier because people are expecting they're gonna because you're gonna have people expecting them to kind of do this really out there and crazy stuff out of nowhere that they've built up to, and it was all subtle and you just kind of missed the hints. And they did that a lot with Gravity Falls with Alex Hirsch, right? But then you have him working on this and you put him kind of up front and say, oh yeah, he's working on this, he's not the lead, Dana is, but you put his name out there and people will start overthinking it. And that does play in,
Mhm.
that does give them an advantage of they're overthinking this. So if we do something a bit more simple, it'll still be surprising.
And there are the people who probably think that the voice actors have some sort of a say regarding where a story goes, which no, but
Well, Alex Hirsch did co-write a bit, though, if I'm not mistaken, right?
yeah, true. But again, you know what I mean.
Oh yeah, yeah, I get you. Yeah, he's more so voice actor than he is, and just being a co-writer here or there doesn't really mean much. But again, like as said, that's going to get people to start overthinking stuff. And because this does
Probably.
give a lot of Gravity Falls vibes from it, that's also going to get people to overthink stuff. Because again, first episode, immediate, like my first thought was, wow, I'm really reminded of Gravity Falls right now. I'm really reminded of Gravity Falls right now. I'm liking this, but I'm
Yeah.
really reminded of Gravity Falls right now. That's not a bad thing. I don't
Mhm.
think that's a bad thing at all. It's just that's what it reminded me of. That's what it put me in the mind of. And I will
But
say,
something tells me though that some things about something maybe as the show goes on, I think it will start developing more of its own
yeah, I
identity that
think
yeah, it reminds you
I think they've
of the
already
before.
got that going for them. I think once they release season 2, you'll start to see you'll get away from the Gravity Falls feeling and similarities. I think first season having those Gravity Falls feelings slash similarities, that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly understandable. Even that you might get that kind of feeling because again, I feel
Yeah.
like if you told me this show feels like Gravity Falls early, early Gravity Falls, I'd say I absolutely agree with you. I absolutely get where you're coming from. And I think once you get into, once they get into releasing the second season of the Owl House and you start to see it, I think you really are going to see the Owl House start to stand more on its own and really set itself apart from Gravity Falls and what came before it. I think the Gravity Falls feelings are there just because Gravity Falls came first. If this came first, you would
Probably.
have people saying, "Wow, Gravity Falls reminds me of the Owl House." So it's just
Maybe
that's that's
so.
that's the luck of going second. You have to deal with being compared to other things sometimes. But
Yeah.
again, I don't make the comparison as a bad thing, and I don't think this is like, oh, you watch the Owl House, you get the lesser Gravity Falls. No, I think like Gravity Falls, the Owl House has a slow start, but I think once we get into later seasons, you're going to see the Owl House really build up into its own thing. And
Mhm.
Personally, I think it might actually end up being better. I hope it does. I really hope it does
Who
because I'm
knows?
very interested.
Like, this is
Because,
this is like the point. Season 2 is scheduled to start airing sometime this year. Excuse me.
Mhm,
And considering how season 1 was handled, it might also finish this year, and we'll
mhm,
get to talk about it once it aired. But
maybe
I'm definitely interested, and I can't wait to see where it goes.
I will say like one final thing. The final episode, the fight between, and I wanted to mention this earlier, the fight between Ada and Lilith. Like, holy shit. This show's had,
Yeah,
I
fight.
will point out, right?
Fantastic fight.
Resident Weeb here, this show had quite a few, like, hey, there's an anime reference. There's an anime reference. The main character literally says she just wants to read her manga and write fan fiction. Like, hot damn, this show's written by a bunch of damn nerds. I love you all. But,
Yeah. You know, Actually, you know something, while researching this and, finding out that Noel Stevenson's wife worked on this show, apparently Noel Stevenson is your age.
yeah, don't make me feel any worse off. Like, super
No, 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 no,
accomplished
no, no.
person. Wolf just
No,
sitting
no,
here
no,
recording
no,
on a
not in that
podcast.
part.
I know. I'm
No,
just picking.
not in that part. I mean,
I
just
know.
that us nerds are writing this stuff now,
Hmm.
which I actually think is really damn cool. That friends of these things are getting to write them, and we can
Hmm.
actually put because, like you said, when news goes like, I just want to read my manga and write my fanfiction and stuff. It's like, damn girl, I can relate.
I actively can.
Although I kind of left the fan fiction scene in the last few years,
You can
but
always get
hey,
back into it. Nothing's stopping you.
I'm trying to actually write original stuff though. So,
That's still writing though. You're
but
still in it. What is original stuff but fanfic? What is original stuff but fan fiction of your own making?
who do who do you think I am? That idiot that wrote Fifty Shades of Grey?
I mean, you could write the next 50 Shades of Grey.
Yuck! No! 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 No!
I'm
No!
not
No!
going
No!
to
No!
read
No!
it,
No!
but
No!
you
No!
could write
No!
it.
No! 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 No!
But yeah,
No!
like,
No! 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 No!
but
No!
um, the that final fight between Ida and Lilith was just amazing to watch. Like, definitely,
Yeah.
you could see like the animators are like, hey, we're probably told like, you've seen anime fights, right? Yeah, sure, we've seen a couple. We want it like that. All right, sure.
Yeah.
And it's
Oh,
like it was
maybe
amazing to
not.
see that in Western animation,
Anime.
though.
Yeah, again, like I think, and I think also, again, say what you want. We're not going to try to go into this discussion right now, but
Mhm.
like after Avatar, The Last Airbender, I think this really opened the gate for Western animation to do
Oh
anime
yeah,
style
I think they
fight
should do it
scenes,
more. I
and
think they should. I think both. I mean, I would love to see Eastern animation take pages from Western animation and throw some of the stuff that Western animation does into Eastern animation. It'd be amazing to see. Because again, I think they should take from each other. I think they should very much, you know, try these different types of stuff. Seeing Avatar: The Last Airbender, Korra, the Dragon Prince. Very much like, hey,
yeah.
this is Eastern animation homage. The show,
Mhm.
Ruby, Eastern,
And not just an
Western
homage,
version.
like just because there are some anime or animated Japanese, like some of the Studio Ghibli stuff.
Hmm.
People have said Miyazaki said that some of his inspiration lies in the classic Disney movies.
Hmm.
So, so kind of like how animation studios from around the world learned, from the American stuff that Disney's been putting out. Why not have American stuff learned from other cultures? And I think the fact we do get more anime fights does help it because some people don't. Because I think also some people I know don't necessarily, connect with anime designs.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
having
absolutely.
these kind of fight scenes with American designs that might be more streamlined and stuff, can can help these people have their kick-ass fight scenes too.
I mean,
So
the big thing, right, that you don't see in a lot of Western animation. s- you- a lot of Western animation is more slow, right? More often than not,
mhm,
especially for like Disney cartoons, right? A lot of their stuff is very slow. It can be fluid and it can look amazing,
mhm.
but it is slower than, say, anime, where you have these extremely fast paced motions and this extremely fast pace, but still a very fluid animation.
Actually,
And
now that
seeing that
after I've lost you,
in a Western cartoon show where you have this amazingly fast animation but still be super fluid in a Disney
and
Western cartoon show,
mhm, yeah,
that one surprised me. I did not expect to
and
see
I
that,
think
but I was very pleasantly
another
surprised.
another example for this, like I forced you to watch that show, so you probably know. In the 2012 Ninja Turtles, the
Hmm.
fights
They
in
did it.
this were really anime inspired, and they looked great
Yeah,
despite being CG.
some really great stuff there. Like, TMNT, like, you can understand why TMNT pulls from that kind of animation though more often, because it kind of should,
Because
because it
it's an action show, yeah.
yeah, it leans more into it, right? Like TMNT being, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right? It definitely leans into that. It can lean into that style a lot more, right? So, but seeing it from something like the Owl House, I will admit, was unexpected. I figured, oh yeah, they'll probably have a fight, but it'll be kind of, your more typical Western animation fight scene stuff, where it's not quite as again, there is a difference between Western animation and Eastern animation when they do their fight scenes. I think everyone would agree when I say that. There is a difference. Western animation feels slower, I guess you would say, in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of
Hmm.
speed to it. Whereas Eastern animation, there is more speed involved within it. You feel like, okay, this is happening very quickly. Even though some of it takes 50 episodes to get through one fight, you still feel like it's happening very quickly. Cough, cough.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I was surprised to see that in a show like The Owl House from Disney of all places. I will admit, I was surprised to see that. I didn't expect it, and it caught me off guard a little bit, but I'm glad they did that. It was exciting to see. I was exciting to see kind of a Western take on that, in a very much Western cartoon that's not trying to ape that, Eastern animation style. So I'm very interested to see if they'll do more of that going forward and how they'll play with that, because I would love to see more of it.
Indeed.
Even like, the fight with Luz versus the Emperor, like, it wasn't as fast paced as Ida and Lilith's fight, but it was still very fluid stuff that was going on. And it felt like it really was, a trained wizard or witch versus, someone who's very much untrained but still able to kind of get around and do stuff, right? Like, you could tell, like, this was
Mhm.
young kid versus older adult, but young kid is still untrained. Like, again, there was a lot of great
Yes.
stuff to go on in that finale, that two-parter finale, and it very
Mhm.
much, up until that point, it was very much, okay. This is fun, it's enjoyable, we're getting somewhere, but it's getting there kind of slow. I'm interested, but you've not hooked me yet. The finale hooked me. The finale was the thing that really said, okay, I want to see where you go with this. I want to see Luz. I want to see you build Luz and Amity's relationship more. I want to see more of this world. I want to see more of these villains and learn more about them. I want to see what you do with Ida and Lilith's relationship as you move forward as well. You've hooked me at this point. Now continue on. I think you've really got something good going here. If you can continue on from this point, I think you'll be doing great. I don't think
Mhm.
it would be hard for them to drop the ball at this point, is what I would say. They would have to massively fuck it up. Massively fuck it up.
Yeah. So I guess with all that said, that's it for the Owl House
Uh,
for now.
yeah. I guess so.
Actually, one last thing that the episode before the finale, the two-part finale, is
Mm-hmm.
that kind of dodgeball episode
Oh yeah, the grudge
where
bee.
they play that sport.
The
Yeah,
literal, basically we're kind of doing Quidditch, but kind of not.
yeah, basically that.
I love
But
that. I love that
and
they did. I love that they made fun of Harry Potter, where oh she
Yeah.
caught the snitch equivalent. That's so and Loser's just like that's stupid. What was the point of playing the game if all you have to do is catch that? Who cares? It's
Yeah,
so dumb.
but
Thank you, Luz.
to
Thank
be
you.
honest though,
Thank you.
yeah, although to be honest, I get what they try to get across, but to be honest, to Harry Potter, there is kind of a reason to catch the snitch there, and
Yeah,
because
but
if you
I
don't
love that.
catch it,
I just love the fact that they made fun of it. It's great.
okay,
I think it was just funny and wonderful. And again, that's just
okay.
one of the show's things. Like it, some of its jokes are somewhat cringy or somewhat stupid, but I'll admit they still got me to laugh.
Mhm, mhm.
But go ahead. I
But
interrupted you.
the thing is that they play the game. They play the game, and during the and like the at the end of the match, Emily gets hurt in her leg, and she
Hmm.
has a cast and everything. And it's kind of like, well, that's kind of sucks that because of the cast, she's like kept out of the climax because a lot of the other characters are there, and she's just bound to the bed, and it's like, eh, would probably want her there to like
Yeah, that was
find a
a
bit
little
more.
weird. I'm curious what they're going to do with her going forward because like this big thing happens and it's like the romantic love interest just isn't there.
Yeah,
So
and that's the reason it bothers me because I get again I'm all for a lesbian couple in this like please and I ship these two and like I said I drew fan out of them. I'm all up for that, but if Emily is just going to turn into the girlfriend now, the one that Luz has to save and otherwise stays away from the action, this I'm not okay with.
I mean, to be fair, right? Like it was very much, in that Wing It Like Witches episode 17, where Amity comes in. It was very much her saving the group, right? Like Luz got herself in over her head, and Amity came in to like save the day a little bit and said, "Hey, I'll help you." So yeah,
Yeah,
I feel like
but
they're not going to do that. I feel like they do have to enough understanding to avoid that issue and that trope. So I feel like Amity's still going to be a
no, I
strong
think so.
character in
I
her own
think
right.
so too. And honestly, I think the only reason she had that cast was because continuity. But let's hope. Let's hope.
Again, I think
So,
it was odd, but I don't think it was out of the ordinary. I think the finale was very much meant more so to be Ada and Lilith's and Luz's thing than it was any of the other characters. I think you'll get to deal with more of the other characters later, right? Like they'll be like
mhm,
Luz and Amity's, relationship and story will be more important going forward, but we needed to have this between Ada and Lilith now. Like that was the focus for this one. And so it was more important that those two and Luz were the focus, not Luz, Amity, and those two. Because it probably would have taken away somewhat because people would have been more focused on the lesbian romance, right? So yeah, again, I get why they did it. It was a little bit of a weird way of doing it, but I get why they did it, I think. So again, I think you'll see more of these two moving forward, and you won't see Amity just become background girlfriend character. Like you will see her be very much forward
yeah,
and upfront and doing her own thing.
I very much hope so. But I think with that said, that's it for this episode of the Outcast. We hope you enjoyed.
Hmm.
What are your thoughts about the Owl House season one, and what do you want to see in season two? What are your theories? You can tell us all about that in the comment section below. On our Tumblr, which is Berkcast Team, on our Twitter, which is Berkcast with capital B, capital C. And until next time, I was HC.
I was Wolf, and before anyone gets upset, yes, there's a lot of things we didn't cover that we could have covered, like Principal Grom. We know. Talk about that in the comments section below as well, and who your favorite characters and why you love Grom. He's an amazing principal. Just again, like there's so much you can talk about
Yeah,
with this show.
indeed.
So
So much
have
that we
at it in the
can fit
comments
it all
section
in
below,
our.
and we will be back with season 2, I assure you, when it's fully released
Yeah.
and covering that and covering even more. So it's a great show.
Yep, so with all that said, have a great night and take care.
Bye bye.